In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make 3 different password systems which can be used for keypads in your world. Please use these responsibly. The first is a simple keypad, which is fast and easy to set up as it's all just math-based. It allows for up to 10 different buttons and multiple passwords doing different things. Each password can only be 9 digits long. You cannot have state indicators, meaning you can't show how many buttons have been currently pressed. It requires a reset and an enter button. You need to handle things somewhat differently if you want any password to start with 0, and weird things may happen if too many buttons have been pressed, but honestly, I haven't really tested that, so I don't actually know if things will happen. Next is the ready keypad. No matter how many buttons you've pressed, you can always enter the password at any time as if it was already ready for it. It allows for an unlimited number of buttons, actually about 4 billion, but who's ever going to make that many? It allows for passwords as long as you want. You just have to set each state for each value in the password. It still allows for multiple passwords. It allows for state indicators on the correct password only. No reset button or enter button required. Sadly, it's easy to guess the password if you have the state indicators, but overall, it's just slightly tedious to set up. Last is the full keypad. It has all the features of the ready keypad, but you can show the state indicators for the incorrect passwords too, which makes it almost impossible to guess the password. It's still somewhat tedious to set up though. It doesn't really require a reset button, but it's just nice to have one. In Unity here, I've already got some keypads with buttons set up. I'm not going to show the process here just to save time, but if you look at it, I have 1 through 9, as well as a reset, a 0, and an enter. Some of these don't have resets and enters, but that's fine. So let's get started. I'll first work on the simple keypad here. What I'm going to do first, go inside my animations folder and create a new animations, and I'm going to call it Keypads. Inside this folder, I'm going to create a new animation controller, and I'm going to call this simple keypad controller. Like that. Drag it onto my simple keypad, and we got a keypad controller. Now, just to make things easier, I'll go over here and add a component, VRC trigger, add a custom one, and I'm going to call this unlock 1. This will basically be what your first password will do or unlock when it's finished. Next, let's go to the animator. This is where pretty much all the work is going to take place, and in fact, it's actually going to be really simple. But this will need 2 parameters. One, a trigger. I'm going to call this enter, which will represent when you press the enter button when you're ready to try a password. Next, I'll get an integer, and this is going to be value, which will be what the person has currently entered for the password. So now, let's create some states. I'll create a new empty state here. I'll name this wait, as I normally do, because it's empty state. I'll create another one here, and I'm going to call this enter, or try enter. So what's going to happen is the person will be in this wait state, and then as soon as they press the enter button, we'll move into this try enter one. And then from here, we'll determine is the password correct, else we'll just go back to the wait state. So make a transition, go to the enter. I'm going to just make this so that there's no duration or no exit time, so it just goes instantly, and condition enter. Now from the enter state, make another transition back to the wait state. And with this, I'll just leave the settings the same. So now, when the user presses the enter button, which we have not set on interact yet, but when they press it, it'll go to the enter, it'll do some little duration, and then go back to the wait state. So we don't have a password yet. So to create a password, I'm going to go over here, create a new clip. I'm going to call this unlock 1. And inside the parameter, add an animation event. Up here, select the custom trigger that we just had, which I believe was also called unlock 1, if I can spell. And back in the animator, created this one here. So as I said before, in the try enter, we will try to see if the password works, so make a transition to this unlock 1. I'm going to remove duration and exit time. And here I'm going to set the password. Basically, when value is equal to whatever we want the password to be, so as an example, 1, 2, 3, 4, we will transition to the unlocked state. And honestly, that's it for the keypad. Well, obviously we gotta set the buttons up. If you want to have multiple passwords inside here, we can then add another transition back over here to the wait state and leave the exit time because it doesn't really matter yet. And then you could just do another unlock. So As an example for that, I can make another animation here. So flip, unlock 2, and add animation event, trigger, custom trigger, and then unlock 2, which currently does not exist, so I'll just add another one here. And then back in the animator, do the exact same thing. Just because of space, I'm going to move it up here. So make transition, add condition, value, equal, another one, 5555. And as with the other one, turn off the exit time and make transition back. And now you have a keypad with 2 different passwords. Well, let's add the button stuff. So before the buttons, let's just go over here and actually show what we want to do for this. As an example, I'm going to do set game object active, and I'm going to add sphere 1 to unlock 1, set that to true. And unlock 2, I'm going to do basic game object, that active, and then drag sphere 2, make that true. So when we get the unlock first, we'll do that. Now, let's get the buttons working. So we have all of these buttons here, but we have to set everything. So I'm just going to select all these, undo or unselect the what I'm going to call is the reset, and unselect enter, and now it's just the numbers. So add component, VRC trigger, and on interact is the one we want. So click add. So I have to click it twice because I have multiple things selected, and then go into basic events, and we are going to first animation int multiply. It'll make sense in a second. Basically, I'm going to take whatever the value is in value, and I'm going to multiply it by 10, which, if you know how math works, it just shifts it over and adds a 0. So multiply it by 10. Next, go through here and set animation int add. Inside this, again, everything's still selected. I'm going to go do value again, but now I can't do everything like just at the same time. I have to go to each one individually. So clicking on 1, I'll change the interaction text to 1, and I'll change this value here to 1, and then you just have to go through all these and do that for you, each one. Hopefully I speed this up so you don't have to watch me do it all right now. So for 0, you don't actually need to do the int add, so I'm just going to remove that. Doesn't need to be there. So now 1 through 9 and 0 are all ready. Let's go into the reset button. I'm going to also add a VRC trigger. I'm also going to go into on interact. And this time, instead of doing a multiply by 10 and add, I'm going to just simply set it to animation int and set value to 0. Basically saying there is no current value. And that's all you need for reset. For enter, do something similar. Interact again. This time, instead of doing integer related stuff, we're going to do trigger, animation trigger. As I have before, it's called enter. And so enter, and then drag the keypad in. And all the buttons are now done. In fact, the keypad's pretty much done. That's it. I'll show a quick example here in the animator. I have password one of the passwords set to 555 and the other one setting to 1234. So pressing play, I'll show you that pressing enter immediately does nothing. And then if I enter in, say 555, like only 3, pressing it does nothing. But if I add the extra 5, pressing it goes unlocked. Basically. To show how the math would be, so let's just say I have 0. Inside that, well, it's going to do times 10, which is still 0, and then plus 1, so now it's 1. Now let's say I press 2, so it's going to be times 10, and then it's going to do plus 2. Obvious math here. And just to continue this, 3, 4 goes to unlock 1. If you want to have a password that actually starts with 0 here, you can't have this value start off at 0. So every password that you want to have with 0 needs to have this say, let's make sure the initial value is 1. And whenever you press the reset button, you need to have it set to 1 here as well. And going with that, you need to also make sure that inside your arrows here, if it starts with 0, like Just as an example, if you wanted to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because the other value here starts with 1, you also need to add the 1 here. Just some weird hack that this kind of requires. So the simple keypad is pretty much done. As I said before, you can't show state indicators. You kind of don't really want to with this because you can have such long things. You can add as many of these unlocked states as you want. You just have to set up each one individually. But now, let's move on to the next keypad, which is then the ready keypad. With the ready keypad here, I've already removed the reset button and the enter button, but I also now have these indicator buttons, which are just going to be, for my example, I'm only going to use passwords of length 3, so you can do it as long as you want, but this one is just going to be 3. So those are what I'm going to use to indicate the passwords. First thing up here, I'm going to make a new animated controller. This is going to be ready keypad controller. Drag that onto the keypad. That's there. And just because I'm going to be simple, I'm going to take my trigger here and copy that as well. Set game object active. I'm going to set that to sphere 1, and I'm going to set this one to sphere 2. Yeah, good enough. Next, I'm just going to reuse these states. Doesn't matter. We'll get to those later. Okay, first thing, as I did before, create a new empty state, and I'm going to call this the wait state. Next thing, since I did it in different order, I'm going to make a trigger. I'm going to call this press. This is basically whenever you press a button, it'll trigger this trigger. Next thing, I'm going to make an int. I'm also going to call this value, but we're not going to do math with it. We're just going to set the number. So every single one of these buttons will be considered a new number. And so you can technically, like I said earlier, have up to 4 billion numbers because that's how many different values can be stored in an integer. Max int is about 2 billion, but you can use negative integers as well. Next, let's start creating some password states. Go into the animation. This is for the right keypad. Go in here, create a new clip. I'm going to call this good, or actually I'm just going to call it 1, saying that you have pressed 1 button. Inside that, press the record, go into the indicators, check it. Yeah, that's it. Unpress record. I'm going to be lazy here, and I'm going to duplicate this, drag this into keypad, click the keypad, go to 2, press record again, and then now have 2. Same process, do the same for 3. Thankfully, it just renames it. Go to keypad, click keypad, go to 3, and then press record. 3, checked. So now all these are saying is you've pressed the button, you've pressed 1 button, press 2 button, press 3 button. And I kind of forgot about these earlier, but I'm just going to undo loop time, even though hopefully that'll never happen. But yeah, let's just undo all loops. This is a mess. Let's organize this. Okay, so wait state, I want you to be default. Next, we have 1, we have 2, and let's find 3 here. So this is going to be the chain. And in fact, I'm actually going to need to duplicate all these because we have 2 passwords. So first thing, from the wait state, make a transition to 1. As I normally do, I'm going to set all these to 0 and uncheck this. And for this transition, we need to have 2 conditions. 1 needs to be pressed, 2 needs to be value, and set it equal to whatever you want the password to be. So in this example, I'm going to set the password to 321. So 3. And then from that, we have from wait, if it is equal to 3, go to 1. But if it's not equal to 3, well, we need to do something. So let's make a transition back to itself. All the same things here. Condition for press, and then value not equal to 3. So this will set it so it goes to the right proper state. And next, for the next one, same things. Value equal, and as I said, 2. Just to make things simpler, I'm going to do this again. Doesn't actually make things simple, I'm just doing it. Press and value equals 1. So what I'm doing basically is just setting the password. If you're on the wait state, that basically means you've pressed nothing. If it's equal to 3, you're going to go down to 1. So now you're in the correct state for the first unlock, which is the first one. Next, if you hit 2, you go down to 2. But what happens if you don't press 2? Well, we need to make a transition, go back to wait. Inside this, you need to consume the press trigger, and then value is not equal to 2. So if you want to change the password, you need to have it from whatever the state, everything that goes out of this state. So if it's going out of the state and the password is 2, so this one needs to be 2, this one needs to be 2. We need to do the same thing for this one. So inside here, do these, value, if it's not equal to, as I said before, 1. So value is not equal to 1, value not, or it does equal 1. And making sure I still have these. So at this point here, you're pretty much done with the first one. Just make a transition here to unlocked. You can do other things with animations here, saying like, oh, you got the password, make another state, and just like, surprise. Yeah, but I'm being lazy on this. Or I guess it does need an exit time. So unlocked is the last one here. So it'll go down. If you want to handle 2 different passwords, you need to do things differently. I'm going to then make another, well, almost all of it's the same except this one right here. Instead of this just being that, you need to add if it is not equal to 3 and it is not equal to whatever we set this next one to. So let's just say this one is going to be 0, 0, 0. That's simple enough. Value equals 0. Make a transition, go to here, make transition, go to here. Just doing all the same transitions that I had before. I don't think I actually had that one. So, there. To value not, or does, no, this was not equal because it's going from back to the wait state. Value does equal 0. That's exit time. We have a really tutorial to watch. There. Everything should be set up. So from wait, you press 0, it goes down to here. Press 0 again, goes down to here. 0 again, goes down to here. If it's not equal to 0 in any of these states, it'll just go back up. This is the only one that's different because you need to do both of these. And so just to test this, let's press the play button. So if you have the state, you press 0, oh, it goes to the first one. Press 0 again, goes to the next. Press 0 again, and it goes into unlocked state. You kind of notice up here that it showed all 3. And as you can see, it gets kind of stuck here. So if you do want multiple passwords, you need to make transitions always back to the start here. Do that for both. So the next one here, I said it was 3, 2, 1, just to show the example. If it's not 3, it stays in there. If it is 3, go in here. Now, if it's 3 again, which is not the correct one, it'll go back. Press 3 again, change this to 2, change this to 1, and it's unlocked. And that's all you need for the ready one. Because if you just continually press the wrong password, it's always going to be waiting for the real first number. So with the ready keypad, we have all the animations here set up properly. We just now need to set up the buttons. I'm going to select all of these, add a VRC trigger, go on interact, similar to the first one. Except this time, instead of doing math, I'm just going to do animation int. I'm going to then press the receiver, get the keypad in there, set the value, and I'm going to need to set this one individually for each. But before that, also add another basic event. I'm going to do an animation trigger. Go inside here. I'm going to call this press and add the keypad. And now I get to go and set all the values. So I'll speed this up. So now let's work on the full keypad. I'm just gonna copy this, go to the full keypad, paste as new, as I did for all the others. Drag the appropriate spheres. Go down here, find the ready keypad, duplicate that, and change this to full keypad. Take that, drag it into full keypad, and then now we have our animator. So most of the logic for this full keypad is actually already set up in this animation controller here. The only difference is that we need to handle bad states differently. Right now we just always go back up to the wait state, but we can now change it so that instead of going to the wait state, we can keep track of how many buttons have been currently pressed. So inside here, I'm going to duplicate these 1, 2, 3s. I'm going to move them over here. And I'm also going to then rename it because this is going to be very difficult to tell if I just keep these default names. So now, everything that went just back up to the wait state, let's delete those. Well, I need this unlocked one. Oh, it's so hard to select these. I believe those are all of them. Okay, so now to set up the bad states. So what we had before, instead of it just transitioning to wait, we just now transition to bad. So in here, no exit time, addition, we take press, we also take value, and since this is the first one, copy the same things that we had before, so not equal to 0, as well as not equal to, I believe it was 3. 3. Same exact things. Now, difference here is that we don't care what the value is. We just care if somebody pressed the button or not. Once you're in the bad states, you stay in the bad states until you, I guess, go back out. So, bad states are transitioning, or bad states within the bad states is finished. Now we just need to transition to bad states for all of these other ones. So, inside here, we said that if it's equal to 2, you move on. If it's not equal to 2, you move to bad state 2. So, inside here, same thing that we had before going to wait, it's just now going to bad state 2. So not equal to 2. Same thing with this one. If it's not equal to 0, transition to bad state 2. Value not equal to 0. Next, if it's not equal to 1, transition to bad state 3. Not equal to 1. 0, check. So from this one, not equal to 0, make transition. Not equal to 0. And that is pretty much all that's necessary for the animation controller for full keypad. As I've said before, you can continue these as long as you want. You just have to handle each one individually. I don't even think, yeah, you don't even need to have like the same equal amounts for each password. So if you wanted to, you could just have this unlocked state be at the second one. So it's like, oh, if I just pressed 0, it's already unlocked. But if you just press 1, 2, 3, you have to go through a different one. Just to show the example, I'm gonna move this down a little bit. Press the play. And then, okay, if you press 0, you got 1 button. Let's say you pressed 1. Oh, you got 2, but it's not correct, but it still shows it. And so you're in the bad state, and then it finishes. So pressing 1 goes to bad, stays in bad. And then 3, pressing 3 again, still in bad. So as with the ready keypad, we need to go through all of these buttons and add triggers to them. On interact, go through and add another one. So animation int, call this value, add it to the keypad. I'll set through these individually. Also set trigger or animation trigger. Call this press and keypad. And time to go through all of these. But before that, let's go through the reset, because I actually have not even done anything with reset. So for reset, I'm just going to do this the simple way. Add VRC trigger. On interact, add set basic trigger. Go in here, set the keypad to keypad. I'm going to call this reset. And to actually get this to work appropriately, I'm going to add a new trigger. Reset from any state to wait. I'm just going to add reset. And that's all you need for the reset part. Still need to go through and change all of these. And with that, everything should be complete for the keypads. Yeah, finally. See how tedious this stuff is? This tutorial is already long enough. I don't need to show you how it looks in game. If you have any questions or suggestions, be sure to put them in the comments. Until next time, thanks for watching.